Hi everybody, welcome to my space, welcome to my attic where I make things, and welcome to episode 1 of Taking Back Friday. Hi there, I'm Felicia Lowe, and I'm the founder and creative director of a knitting yarn company called SweetGeorgia Yarns, and we're based here in Vancouver, Canada. Now, for the past 13 or so years, I've been working on building this business and building a team of people to help produce these hand-dyed knitting yarns and spinning fibers and knitting patterns and all of these kinds of things. And so it's been the most incredible and amazing ride for the past 12, 13 years or so. And it's given me so many amazing opportunities to learn things about yarn and fiber and spinning and knitting and weaving and all of these wonderful fiber arts that I'm so obsessed with. But it started about last year. I had this burning desire to make things, specifically to weave things, and I couldn't not think about it. It was just turning over my brain over and over and over, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And some nights I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about it so much. And it was just all about things that I wanted to make, yarns that I wanted to combine, colors that I wanted to combine, and I just couldn't get it out of my head. But I was unbelievably frustrated because I just didn't have any time to do any of the things that I wanted to do. And on one hand, it's because I take my work very, very seriously and I spend a lot of time doing the work side of things. I also, over the past couple of years, have spent a lot of time writing specifically for the book that I published this past January, and also started a family about 4 years ago. Our son is going to be 4 in November, which is crazy. And yeah, so I started to have all these feelings around wanting to really, really make things, but I was strapped by the amount of time and energy that I had to be able to commit to it. And so last year I wrote this blog post and it was called Taking Back Friday. And the whole point of it was that I realized for myself that how important it was to prioritize your own making time, not making time, that's part of work, not making time that is part of making samples or swatches or things like that for work purposes, because work is work, but making things to fuel and express your own creative soul, like things that came out of me. And it was more than just making colors. I mean, we make colors for SweetGeorgia. We're dyeing colors all the time, but it's more than making the colors. It was about, what do we do with the colors after we've made them? What do we make them into? And so that's what's been eating away at me for months now. And so the idea of Taking Back Friday was that it was so important to prioritize the time for yourself, prioritize your own making time for yourself, and prioritize yourself really above work, above family sometimes, above cooking, above cleaning sometimes, above all those things. Sometimes you just need a few minutes to take care of you and your creativity and your need and desire to make things. So that was the idea. But after I wrote that blog post, I don't think that I've had that many opportunities to really sit down in this attic and make things for myself. Yeah. And so the point of being here today and having this conversation is really about making more of a commitment for myself personally to making things and actually spending time in this attic, in this amazingly gorgeous, wonderful, natural daylight lit attic, being able to make the things that I want to make. So whether it's weaving or if it's knitting or if it's, I don't know. It's about just making time for yourself to make things. The other reason why I really want to be making these videos is because, as some of you might know, I have been starting work on this School of SweetGeorgia project, and that whole thing is about creating online video-based fiber arts education. And so part of making these videos is also to give me opportunities to practice using this equipment, figuring out how to do the sound, figuring out how to do the lights, figuring out how to do this setup and layout so that we can get the best shots possible, so that hopefully I can help teach you guys some of the techniques and skills that I've learned over the past decade or so of dyeing or whatever else that we're going to be doing. Also, part of it is that in order for me to understand what it feels like to be a student, I need to go back to the beginning. I need to go back and be a beginner. I need to learn things from scratch again. And so there's a lot of things that I'm excited about exploring. I'm excited about learning. And so part of that is me learning, making things, and repeating that. It's the iteration that helps you get better. So me making these videos will hopefully mean that future videos will get better and better and better. And me coming back and making more hand-woven things will hopefully mean that the hand-woven things that I make a year from now will hopefully be better than the things that I made last year. And so it's all about learn, make, repeat. Learn, make, repeat. Repeated iteration, iteration, iteration with feedback, iteration with feedback, iteration with feedback. This is the cycle of hopefully making things and moving towards the direction of mastery, which is what I'm really seeking. That's ultimately what I want to be able to achieve for myself, is a sense that I know what I'm doing, I can do it the way that I intend to do, and I can do it efficiently, I can do it productively, and I can bridge that creative gap. If you've never heard that quote, there is a quote by Ira Glass, I believe it is, and it's about this whole idea of there's things that you can envision in your mind, things that you want to create, the thing that you want to create. But what comes out on the other end may or may not be the thing that you envision. And so between the thing that you envision and the thing that you're able to create, there's this gap. And the gap might be your skills, it might be your knowledge, it might be your experience. And so everything is about trying to learn and experiment and push yourself so that you're able to bridge that creative gap. And so that, for me, is what I'm trying to do, not just with these videos and making videos, but also with my craft, which is I want to be able to weave exactly what I have in my mind. And right now, I do experience that creative gap. There's things that I see, things that I want to be able to make, and the things that come out on the other end might seem okay, but to me, they're not what I'm trying to get at. And so that's what I'm trying to do here as well. And hopefully, if I can share with you the challenges and the things that are happening on my creative journey, hopefully that might be able to help you as well on your creative journey. I think that a lot of people living creative lives, like all of us, we all go through similar things. We all go through similar challenges. We also go through similar emotional highs and lows, because it's part of the creative process. It's part of making things. It's part of putting yourself out there, showing people the things that you've made. And that can be the most challenging part, but that could also be the most rewarding part. I know that when I started the Sweet Georgia blog, part of what kept me going was the encouragement and the feedback that I got from people who are reading the blog at the time. And so a lot of that is so motivating. It's fuel. It's fuel to keep you going. And so hopefully we can encourage each other on this creative journey and creative process towards making things. And finally, the last reason why I want to make these videos is I started blogging in 2004, and that was an opportunity for me to sort of show you the inside look at, what I was making or how I was doing things, what we were doing at Sweet Georgia, when we were building the studio, all those kinds of things, those behind the scenes things. And so what I'm hoping is that through these videos, I can show you sort of a window into the world of Sweet Georgia and the world of what I'm making here in this room, whether it's the things that I'm knitting or weaving or spinning or whatever, but also a window into what's happening at Sweet Georgia, what's happening behind the scenes. What are we making? What are we thinking about? What are we planning to do with the website? What are we planning to do with the club? What are we planning to do with all of these things? It gives me an opportunity to talk to you a little bit more directly about what we're making and why we're choosing to do it. And I can talk a whole lot faster than I can write. So I think that this is probably one of the easier ways for me to get this done for you guys. So maybe to first get us started, I will share with you what I've been working on. So I can share with you stuff that I've been knitting, stuff that I've been spinning, weaving, and dyeing. And then I want to do a quick little recap on what's happened this October, where actually we had Knit City here in Vancouver. And so those 5 things, hopefully that's not too much for the first go round. So what I'm knitting is the mystery knit along that we're doing with SweetGeorgia. And so this is a mystery knit along that is being designed by Tabitha Hedrick. She's our design director at SweetGeorgia, and so she designs a lot of the knitting patterns that we do, but she also coordinates things like this. So this is the first time that we're doing a mystery knit along at SweetGeorgia, and we had done a couple of these knit alongs earlier on in the year as a group. So we all did the Hohi mystery knit along, and I finished knitting my wrap. It's humongous. You can see it. It's humongous. And I don't think that I have, well, no, I haven't finished weaving in all of the ends or anything like that, but I tried to knit all of my ends in as I went along. So this is the stole that I knit for the Hohi Locatelli's knit along. And it's a mystery knit along, so you didn't know what the colors were going to be or how they were going to interact. And so the whole point was just to pick 5 colors. So I picked 5 colors out of my stash, out of things that I had lying around here in the attic that I really loved and wanted to use, and I was saving for a long time. So things like there's a Cashlux Spark in Glacier here that I really, really liked. I had an extra ball of Laurel, which is like a pale green, and I always have some of this Deep Cove color. That's one of my favorite colors. And this was Tangerine. I really wanted to use that for something. And finally, this was Mango Ice. This was a new sort of splashy colorway that we did in the springtime. And I really like this one. I like yellow. I know not a lot of people like yellow, but I really like yellow. And so I was wanting to put all these colors together. I'm not entirely sure that all the colors go together that well. When I look at it, I think of patio furniture. I think of summertime patio furniture and drinking drinks outside on the patio. That's what I think of when I see these colors together. But it was fun to do. I mean, it's just fun to look at, and it was fun to knit. And so because we liked doing this mystery knit along so much, Tabitha and I were talking, and we thought maybe we should do our own for SweetGeorgia. And so that's what I've been working on recently. So for the SweetGeorgia knit along, all it was 3 skeins of yarn and 3 clues and 3 weeks. So it's actually quite a lot of knitting for somebody like me, because I don't have a ton of time to do all that knitting. And so these were the 3 colors that I chose. I chose this color, which is my favorite color right now. It's called Lupine. And it comes as part of a new gradient mini skein pack that we were doing for this fall. And so it was a pack that goes from sapphire to empress. So sapphire blue to purple, and it's a gradient 5 colors. But this is one of those colors, and it's called Lupine, and I love it. I have it like in 3 different yarns on this table here. And then this one was from my stash. This is an undyed skein of sample sparkly yarn from one of the mills, and they wanted us to test it and possibly pick it up and dye it, except that when I feel it, it's a little bit more scratchy than I like, and so we chose not to pick up this particular yarn, but it does have sparkles in it, and I like it. And the last color is this one, which is called Intergalactic, or actually this is a sample that I dyed of the Intergalactic colorway. That's a custom colorway that we made for Eat Sleep Knit a couple of years ago. And so it's got some purple in it, it's got some blue in it, and it's super fun. I really, really love this one. So these 3 colors are what I picked for my mystery knit along. I've made already a couple of mistakes, but I'm just gonna keep going. I'm not going to show you my actual shawl because I know that it's a mystery, so maybe you don't want to see it yet. I don't want to spoil anything. But I also know that because the undyed colorway is so similar to some of the white spots in this variegated colorway, that sometimes when you mix these 2 yarns together and you knit them back and forth in stripes, that they don't have the same effect that a lot of other people are getting in their mystery stoles. So that's something. I don't know. We'll have to see how it turns out. I don't actually know what it's going to look like because Tabitha told me it has to be a mystery and a surprise for me too. So that part of it's actually really pretty fun. So that has been what I've been knitting. So knit the teeniest, tiniest scarf out of a sample, like a 25 or 50 gram mini skein of yarn that I happened to dye after the dyeing videos that we recorded. We had some leftover dye in the pot, and so I just dropped this little sample skein of yarn into that and got this nice purple and blue sort of layered sort of nice color happening. And so I just doubled it. It's actually a really, really super sparkly yarn. It's got some gold sparkles and some red sparkles and some blue sparkles. And it's one of those samples from the mill that they wanted us to try and see if we might like it. And so I like how sparkly it is. I'm thinking about maybe getting a little bit more that we could try dyeing up. But this is actually, yeah, it was super fun and super easy to knit up. It's just a 3x3 ribbed scarf that I was going to give to Nina so that she can wear it this winter. And I just knit it while she was playing next to me. And I think it took a day and a half to make her little mini scarf. So that was super fun and super quick and super easy. And sometimes that feels like this is the extent of my knitting these days. So I have also been weaving. I've been weaving two things recently. And one of the first things was that all of my looms are here in the attic. And so they're obviously upstairs and they're away from the TV, which is downstairs. And so after the kids go to bed at night, my husband and I will want to watch Netflix or whatever. And so I can't bring my giant looms down to the living room to sit in front of the TV and weave. So I went and I got myself a rigid heddle loom because I thought, well, it's really portable and I can have that in front of me and the couch and I can do some weaving there and all that kind of stuff. And so it just so happened that Liz Gibson at yarnworker.com, she's also started making instructional videos on weaving and specifically weaving with a rigid heddle loom. So the way that she got started was by doing these weave-alongs. And so she's written a book called Hand Woven Home, which is wonderful. It's beautiful, beautiful photos, great projects, easy projects, all things that you can do on a rigid heddle loom. And so I was inspired to go and participate in this weave-along because I thought it would be great to motivate me to make something on this rigid heddle loom that I'd just gotten. And so I joined the weave-along, and the first weave-along that they were doing, or the second weave along, is for kitchen towels. So it was basically you warp up your rigid heddle loom with kitchen towels and you make a relatively long warp so that you can make 4 kitchen towels. And originally my idea was that I was going to hand dye all of the cotton yarn that I was going to put into these dish towels. And I did. I hand dyed a whole bunch, but then I chose at the last minute to change my colorway entirely because I liked these other colors that happened to be on the bobbins. And so I chose these colors and I made this dish towel. It was actually very quick to do. All of the warp threads are doubled and then all of the weft threads are also doubled cotton. So it goes pretty fast. The warping was really great because she taught me this new way of warping. It's called a hybrid method. And so it's where you're using a warping board and you're doing a direct weaving at the same time. And it allows you to make a longer warp rather than walking back and forth between your loom and one peg. It allows you to make a much longer warp. So yeah, I learned how to do that new hybrid warping technique from Liz Gibson on her weave along. And then she also has a class out right now on Weaving 101. So if you've never woven with a rigid heddle loom before, you can now watch Liz's entire class where she leads you from beginning to end with a project of, how to get the loom set up, how to warp it, how to weave a project, how to finish a project, all of that kind of stuff. So if you are interested at all in rigid heddle weaving, that might be a place to start. Now, I did warp up that loom for at least 4, if not 5 kitchen towels. But one of my girlfriends, who also has sort of a weaving itch that she needs to scratch every once a year, she wanted to borrow a loom. And I thought, well, it might be motivation for me to get this thing off of the loom. And so in order to do that, I actually had to cut off the remainder of the warp. And so you can see it right here. I put, so there's a little bit that I wove onto the for the next dish towel, but then I thought, well, I'm not going to finish this. So I'm going to just save it for later. So I put two very, very long stick shuttles in there to serve sort of as lace sticks and just maintain the cross that I had already created on the loom. And then I took the rest of the warp and then I just kind of chained it up. So my hope here is that I can then put this back onto my bigger floor loom and then just weave off a whole bunch of the kitchen towels a little bit more quickly and just get that done. So hopefully that's going to go back on to the big loom. And then the other thing that I've been weaving is I was requested by my son, he's almost 4 now, Russell, he wanted a scarf. And originally, for a long time, he wanted a blue and yellow scarf. But then he all of a sudden changed his mind at the very, very last minute and decided that he wants purple and red. And so we took him to Sweet Georgia and he got to pick his own colors out of the second spin. And so he picked blood orange, which is very, very, very bright orangey red, and grape jelly, which is very, very bright purple. And so I made for him a scarf on the loom. And so this is basically just Tough Love sock. These were seconds that we had, Tough Love sock seconds. And seconds meaning that there was just either something funny about the color, wasn't exactly what we had intended or whatever it was. And that's why we were using them. So it's a fingering weight sock yarn that we used, and I set this at 12 ends per inch. I put this on the Louette spring loom. That's what I was weaving it on. And it's just, like a tiny little scarf. And I was lazy. I didn't want to make the stripes smaller because I was just putting a whole bunch of yarn on the bobbin, and I would just weave it until the bobbin was empty and then go and switch next color. So it's just very, very quick and easy. But I actually love the way this fabric drapes, and it actually feels pretty soft, for 12 ends per inch for this fingering weight yarn. And I used the Tough Love sock as the weft yarn as well, and just beat it square. The whole thing is supposed to be balanced plain weave. Very, very simple. And I'm also kind of lazy about finishing, and so all I did for the finishing was to tie these little bundles into overhand knots, and so that will hopefully be okay for a while. I just need to trim that one, but that will hopefully survive my 4-year-old and this winter. So I had a little bit of leftover warp on that particular project. And so the Tough Love warp, this fingering weight warp, I decided to cross it with a couple of different wefts just to do a little bit of a sample to see what these fabrics would feel like. And so for one of the fabrics, I used our spun silk lace. It's a 20/2 bombic silk lace yarn. And this is something that has very, very little elasticity. It's 100% silk. 100% cultivated silk, and so it's very, very shiny, very, very slippery, very smooth. But I put that next to the Tough Love sock, and it feels quite amazing. Very stretchy, very drapey. This could make a very good scarf, but I'm worried that because it's 100% silk and because it doesn't have very much grip, I can actually get my finger through that. So that's not ideal for a stability of a fabric. And so I don't like that about this. And so I might, I would use the spun silk lace for a different project. I wouldn't use it in this way. The other one that I crossed it with is our merino silk lace. And so merino silk lace is also a lace weight yarn, but it's 50% merino. It's not superwash, 50% merino and 50% silk. And so that produces a much more firm sort of fabric. It's still got the drape and it's still got the stretch and everything, but it's a little bit more firm. It doesn't feel as slinky as the other one, and I can't really get my finger through it, not very well. Of course, if you're using superwash yarns in your weaving, then there is going to be less of that sort of fulling and felting sort of feel where the yarns mush together really, really well. So whenever I get a chance, I have been watching Jane Stafford's online guild videos, and Jane Stafford is a weaver based in Salt Spring Island here in the Gulf Islands in British Columbia. And she has a beautiful weaving studio out there, and she teaches workshops and all these kinds of things. However, one of the issues is that it's actually very difficult to get into her courses because they're so popular, and you have to travel there and you have to stay there for a week and all these kinds of things. And so I think she knew that as well, and so she's begun making online videos that you can watch where she teaches you how to weave. And so I've been following along on her weaving videos. And a lot of what she talks about is this idea of making a canvas. So figuring out, what your yarns are going to be for your warp and your weft, what is the ideal set, and so what is the ideal ends per inch? How closely are you going to put them together? And what's your ideal picks per inch? So how tightly are you going to beat them together to make what kind of fabric? And so the whole idea is trying to figure out what's the best fabric, or what's the fabric that you want to make. And once you figure out your canvas, or once you figure out what the yarns are and the set and all of the technical specs of the fabric, then you can actually do the design part of it, which is to figure out, well, what colors are you going to apply? What colors are you going to mix and use? Are you going to make stripes? Are you going to mix colors together? Whatever you're going to do, if you're going to hand paint it, if you're going to hand dye it, if you're going to mix hand dyed with a commercially dyed, whatever it is, then it just becomes a design issue. But first, it's about making the canvas. So a lot of what I've been doing with the weaving right now is trying to figure out, what combination of yarns do I like best? And then how am I going to apply color to that? So that's what I've been working on with the weaving side of things. Now with spinning, this past October, we had Spinzilla, which is the annual spinning competition where there's teams of 25 spinners, and spinners will spin as much yardage as possible during that week. And once they finish, then they calculate how much yardage they've spun, and then as a team, that number goes and competes against other teams. And so our team, Team SweetGeorgia, 25 spinners on our team, we ended up spinning just over 100,000 yards of yarn. And so that put us at 13th out of about 70 teams for Spinzilla for 2017. So that was very, very exciting. And it was very, very wonderful to have all of our spinners come and join us at the studio for a couple of spin-ins. And it was funny because I missed the sign up and the registration for my own team, and I didn't manage to get onto my team. So I spun as a rogue. I didn't have very much yardage anyways. I literally spun this skein of yarn and this many singles that haven't even been plied together. And so that's all I managed to do for an entire week of spinning. And so I wouldn't have been a very good contributor to my own team. It was very, very lovely and wonderful that the spinners on our SweetGeorgia team ended up turning around, turning the tables, and putting together a gift for me. Usually with our spinners on our team, we always give a gift to each spinner. So we have some fibre, we have some merch, we might have a gift card. We always try to prepare something for each person who participates on the Team SweetGeorgia, because we're so grateful and appreciative that somebody would choose to want to represent SweetGeorgia on the team. And so it's always been a pleasure for us to be able to provide gifts for the team members. But this year I was kind of floored and blown away that the spinners on our team turned around and secretly made a gift for me. And so there was handmade knitting bags in there. There was a hand-spun, handmade yarn bowl. There's handmade soap in there. There were chocolates and sweets. And it was just the most lovely and wonderful and amazing gift to receive from these spinners in our community. So if any of you guys are watching, thank you. Thank you very much. It was so wonderful. Thank you. So for dyeing in October, this past month, we actually hosted our very first dyeing workshop at the SweetGeorgia studio. We had hosted dyeing classes before, like long time ago, at our 4th Avenue studio, and that's like 7 years ago. So this is the first time in like a long time that we've ever taught other dyers, a class of dyers. It was about 15 people who came and hung out in one of our dye studios. And it was a little bit tricky, you know, space-wise. I was very nervous about having 15 people walking back and forth with hot water and all sorts of things like that. But it actually worked out wonderfully. I was very, very happy to meet all these amazing dyers and get to meet a couple of other indie dyers, and just everybody was so happy and enthusiastic, and it was just a very positive and nice afternoon, and just met some really, really great people. So I was very, very excited to do that. I was very, very excited to do that because normally when I teach dyeing, I have to, you know, cart all of my equipment and supplies and dyes and undyed yarns, and we have to pack them up and haul them to another place. But in this case, we got to do it all in our own space and we didn't have to get anything. And I showed up an hour before class and said, hey, where's the yarn we're going to dye? So it was actually really, it was really, really great to be able to teach it in our own studio space. And so hopefully that might be something that we do again in the future. As part of that class, I got to dye some samples. I always do a demonstration. And so one of the demonstration things that I did was some low water immersion skeins. And so these are the skeins that came out of the sample dye pot that I did for that class. And so I actually really, really love this. Like sometimes, you know, you're just doing these demonstrations and you just pour whatever because you're just trying to show the technique. I'm not really thinking too much about the color as I'm doing it. But in this case, I actually really like these skeins. So I think this might be something that I weave eventually. Maybe, hopefully. That's going to be something on the plate. So finally, I just want to leave you guys with a couple of clips from Knit City, which was the knitting festival that happens at the beginning of October every year. And it was very fun and exciting to finally go and see the big lineup at the beginning before the doors opened, and to get to see a lot of vendors that I never have seen before, and get to chat with some people and chat with customers and see what people are making. And it was just super, super fun. It's the most amazing meeting place once a year where you can see all these things to do with yarn and fiber, and it's wonderful. So this year at Knit City, I only bought two things. This pattern, it's called Veronica, and it is designed by Shannon. It's designed by Shannon Cook. She's a designer on Vancouver Island, and she designs beautiful, modern, streamlined, very contemporary sort of things. And so this is a cocoon cardigan, textured shawl collar cocoon cardigan, and it's knit in worsted weight yarn. So I was thinking about actually using this DK weight yarn that we have. It's the Mohair Silk DK, and this is again in that color lupine, which I'm in love with. So this is Mohair Silk DK, and it's not worsted weight. So if I knit it with just this, it would be too loose and too flimsy. And so what I want to do is actually double it or knit it with something else. I'm thinking with silk fog or maybe another lace weight yarn, and holding those two strands together to make myself my own worsted weight to make this particular pattern. So that's the one thing that I bought. The second thing that I bought was this beautiful tapestry loom. It is a frame loom that is made by Woven Wood Goods, and it's really lovely. I had made my own frame loom from just pieces of canvas stretcher bars that you can get at like a art supply shop and things like that. And so I'd made my own, but it required me to nail nails in, you know, for all of the intervals that you wanted. And so those nails I found to be, well, kind of scary and dangerous. I just didn't want to have the kids accidentally slip and fall and hit one of these nails. So I couldn't really have that around kids. So this one is made beautifully with these little grooves in them. So there's no sharp objects here. This is relatively safe to have around children. And so I'm hoping to get to play a little bit more with this. I've just warped it up with a little bit of cotton seine twine here. And what I also got with it is this very lovely yarn needle that has been dipped in indigo. It is just really pretty. Like, you could use anything. You could use your fingers to put the yarn through all of these little, you know, threads and everything like that, but it's just so pretty. I just love it. And it's nice to work with tools that are nice and pretty and beautiful. And so yes, again, this is made by Woven Wood Goods, and I'll put some links down below. So I'll show you guys a couple of clips from what I happened to see at Knit City. I didn't get to talk to everybody because it was just quite busy and quite crazy, but I just wanted to show you a couple clips about what happened at Knit City. Every year for the past couple of years, I have been late to the opening of Knit City. It took me 2 hours to get from Richmond to the Peony yesterday. I had to make a couple of stops, but still, 2 hours is a long time. So I want to make it there before the rush this year. So let's go take a look. Okay, so it's 8:45. We still have 15 minutes before the doors open, but it still literally took me 55 minutes to get here. So we're gonna go inside and check it out. Let it go down. But I can hold how long did you guys wait? How long have you guys been here for?
7 a.m. But they were here first.
How about you guys? When did you guys get here?
5 a.m.
5 a.m.
Great chairs.
Morning. Morning. Hi.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, look who got a haircut.
I know.
Hi. You look amazing.
Thank you.
You're amazing too.
What are you doing?
I'm filming.
Oh my God. Hi.
This is the linen yarn, right?
Yeah, it's linen. Yeah, it's linen.
Yeah.
Flax and so fine, and I just did the blank, so it's like long pieces, like almost like a scarf, and then I dyed it in wisteria, lilac, lady gray, tumblestone, and jasmine. So it becomes a 5-color gradient. And after that, I wound them into 4 balls because I need 4 skeins. So I dye all 4 skeins and wound it into ball, and I start knitting by alternating the 2 strands. So every round is one yarn ball from one yarn ball, and when I go to the second round is for another yarn ball. Yeah, and it just like go and like grow. So it becomes like really big. Yeah.
That looks so cool.
Yeah, it's like my personal biggest crochet project ever. And I'm really happy with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Do I go this way or this way? I don't know. This is my first time coming to Knit City. It's amazing. I got to fangirl over Felicia and Jane Richmond and everybody else that I have like this online relationship with but never get to meet. So yeah, I'm excited.
Exciting.
Yeah.
So far the energy is really, really good in here.
It is really
very positive. Good. So we'll have to go check out your yarns in a bit.
Yeah, it's all close by. Can I get a selfie with you?
Oh, hello.
Hello from Knit City.
Is this your first?
This is my first ever Knit City. Amazing. I want to come back. Yeah, I want to come back because I clearly can't fit all this yarn in my suitcase this time, so I'm gonna have to do that next time.
And you're teaching this weekend?
I'm teaching this weekend. I did brioche yesterday, and I've got finishing techniques this afternoon, and knitting outside the box tomorrow. So yeah, it's a good collection. It's a good collection. I love coming and teaching in Western Canada because the students are super sassy. They're so sassy. Like they just give me so much shit, and I really enjoy that. So it's really good.
Oh my gosh, really? Okay, tell me about your sweater. Tell me about your sweater.
It's the Stasis pattern from Jared Flood, and I named it Fire and Ice because it's red and blue. And all the colors are from SweetGeorgia yarns. The orange is blood orange, and I have glacier, and I think this is slate. But yeah, it's actually my well, it's not my first sweater, but it's actually my first Fair Isle sweater.
It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
I wore them anyways.
So these are your first
First Sweet Georgia and from the first Knit City.
I love it. So nice. Okay, your shawl is beautiful.
Thank you. It's called the So Close shawl.
So close?
So Close.
Okay.
I named it for my sister because it's an inside joke. It's a silly inside joke. Just a silly inside joke. Nothing really funny, but I made it so it's completely reversible. So there's never a right side or a wrong side.
Oh, that is genius.
Because every time I make her something, she throws it on, and I'm always like, it's the wrong way. And she's like, no, it's not. I'm like, no, you're right. It's fine. But she has all the wrong sides showing. So no matter how she throws it on.
Like little ridges where you do the garter and then you do the stripes and then you.
No.
Oh.
Everything's 100%. So it doesn't matter how you throw it on. And I wanted to make sure that when you put it on, she also just throws it on however she wants. So I wanted to make sure that she could put it on without a mirror. So it's really big. It's almost full 3 skeins. No, 4 skeins, sorry. So I just want to make sure that she can just throw it on.
Oh, that is nice.
And it doubles over the shoulder. And then this doubles over the shoulder.
Okay, tell me, is the pattern available? Can we get it?
Yeah.
It's on Ravelry?
It's on Ravelry.
Sweet.
So I just want to make sure it was something fast she could put on and reversible no matter how she put it on. And
I love it.
That is beautiful.
And I like that it doubles over the shoulders, so it's actually really warm for lace.
Okay, I'm gonna make that after the
Thank you.
Okay, tell me about your shawl.
Oh, well, my shawl is knit with lip gloss, Cash Lux Spark, and this was actually a free skein of yarn that I won for listening to the Sweet Georgia podcast, and I entered a competition and I won it. Yeah. And then all I had to do was buy a skein of Cash Lux Fine in birch, and then I just knit it up. So it goes to show, listen to the podcast, get free stuff.
The Spice Market, on the Spice Market? It's called
On the Spice Market.
Spice Market.
Yeah, isn't it nice?
And the pattern tells you when to switch colors? Or
Yeah.
And it's like such a fun knit.
I think, let's see, there's 5, 5, 5, 5. Oh, I did do 5 of each. And then, yeah, it worked out.
Yeah.
It's my first birthday. That might be the last name.
Hello.
I wanted to tell you that hello?
Hey.
Hi! We're so happy to be at Knit City this weekend and that we got to meet Felicia and talk a little bit. Oh no! Hey, did I say it's the first time? It's the second time.
Oh, second time.
Yeah. I said first time? Oh, okay, let's do that again.
No, she keeps rolling.
Yeah, we're so happy to be here this weekend. It's our second time. We love Vancouver people. We're happy to be spending time here and we're having a wonderful
Lots of fun.
That's
Beautiful. And then I'm gonna walk through and let's see your sign. Woo! Beautiful. Cool.
I love that.
So yeah, Jose Peca and I'm Heidi Kermeyer. We designed this collection over the last year. It's called Strong and Free. It's a bit of a nod to everything Canadian.
Canada 150.
Yeah, a little bit of that. And we used all yarns that were produced or hand-dyed in Canada. And we gave all the pieces names that were reminded us of places in Canada or things to do with Canada. So yeah, that's kind of it. Yeah,
Fantastic. And what are you guys wearing today?
Oh,
And actually not pieces
none of the
from
collection.
the collection.
So we've got, this is Such a Winter's Day. That's one of my designs.
Beautiful.
And I borrowed Jose's
Horseshoe
shawl.
Bay. Horseshoe
Because
Bay.
it's freezing in here.
Yes. And I'm wearing Lori, which is one of my design, and I was too cold as well, so I put on Railway, which is also one of my design, on top to keep warm.
Very nice.
Hi, Felicia.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how you doing?
I am from
Penticton in the Okanagan. I dye all merino at the moment. I have project bags made by my mom. Yarn bowls made by my dad. I had
It's been on sale.
I just
They're just selling them.
Yeah, they said there's a mushroom.
It's a giant, colorful mushroom.
Yeah. He's 5-stranded gradient.
Hi. Welcome to Abundant Earth. And Local Color.
Hi, welcome to Local Color Fiber Studio, where we naturally dye all of our yarn with plants that I grow on my farm.
That's amazing. What kind of colors can you get from the plants that you dye, that you grow in your farm?
So it's a lot of yellows and oranges, and all the blues are from indigos. And so I also work on a vineyard, and so these are from grape skins.
Amazing. So you get purple from grape skins?
Oh yeah. So sometimes it's purple. Some, it differs every year.
Yeah.
Right. So.
How about the wool? Where does the wool come from?
So this rainbow lace from Wyoming, and then I also dye some of Lydia's yarn, and she spins it on Whidbey Island. And then I also have my own sheep. And
you have your own sheep?
Yes, here they are. So,
there's your sheep.
Not jump right into the
I'm making a weaving with a Raya technique, and all my yarns are naturally dyed. So I'm a weaver and a natural dyer.
Great. And you're local here in Vancouver?
Yeah.
Okay. So how long does it take to finish a piece like this?
I started this yesterday.
Maybe you and I should go on a trip.
So it just depends on how much time you have.
Feel this.
Simple technique. Finish it the piece.
Hi.
Great, brilliant.
Hello.
Okay, see you later.
Look, it's a rainbow in here.
Thank you.
Is that alright?
Yes. Knitting machine.
I might get Ice to do it because she swap favors.
Yeah, that's a better.
Yeah.
Should I say anything? What should I say?
Sure. Is this your first time coming to Knit City?
Yes.
Yes. And how is it so far?
Very overwhelming, but everyone has been really sweet.
I've only been spinning for I've been spinning for 3.5 years now, so yeah. That's not long. It's not long.
Hey Bella, you need to get on this so I can get wool.
The sweater's beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Everybody's coming to ask for yarn for it.
Oh, good. Because
Yeah.
I sent some people over there throughout the weekend. It's one of those things that is easy to customize to fit a lot of different builds and frames, and can be flattering in all sorts of age ranges and body types, which was the goal for the design.
And quick to knit.
I did mine without even knitting every day in 2 weeks, so because it's knit kind of sideways and up and then seamed under the arms, so there's only a short period of time that you actually have the majority of the stitches on your needles, so a lot of the times you're just increasing or decreasing, so it's really fun. Yeah.
Okay. I knit it 2 inches longer on the sleeves. Is that good enough?
Very nice. So it's Beach House?
Yeah.
And Tough Love Sock?
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And Grace.
Oh my god!
Where
Look
you
at
need
your
me.
funky plate. It is beautiful.
Thank you.
So which colors did you use here?
Let's see, clementine, and then I used the Party of Five in the, you would know the colorway, I forget.
Right, in the jelly bean.
In the jelly bean. And then the mango.
Yes.
And then the lemon curd.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Oh my god, take a video of you in your shawl.
Sure you can.
It's
Lots of
beautiful.
compliments on it.
Ooh.
And that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.